I didn't have on my watch review bingo card this year that I was going to be reviewing a watch with a paper dial, but this is a really cool watch that has come to us very kindly from the team over at Vendianico. And I actually got to spend a bit of time with Alberto and Elena this weekend at the Wind Up Watch Show. So I got to see this watch in person, and very kindly they have sent one in for the channel for us to take a look at today. If you've seen the thumbnail, this watch might not be to everyone's taste, the painting on the dial, but stick with the review because how they've made this dial is absolutely fascinating. They've used Washi paper, which is a paper technique from Japan, and they've been using it for the last 1,300 years. There's all different types of washi paper, and if you've ever seen those Japanese houses where they have paper on the inner doors, that is a type of washi paper. But washi paper has been used for all sorts of things through the years. There is another watch brand that has used this, and that is Citizen, which is on their $4,000 watches. But this watch is really celebrating that paper, and I think it's pretty cool. Before we dive into talking a little bit more about the dial, let's just go over the specs of this watch. So the team over there have a range of platforms that they use. This is their integrated sports watch platform, the Arsenale, and then they really go to town with case finishings, with dial options. We've certainly seen turquoise stone dials, aventurine dials on the show. They really take these platforms and then really experiment with all of these different dial options, creating very unique watches. From speaking to them at Wind Up, they've got a lot more watches in the works. But let's focus back on this watch. So it is using their Arsenale platform, a 40mm watch. It's a 44 from lug to lug. I think the lug to lug is slightly misleading because it does appear to have female end links. These don't articulate, so it's probably more like a 49mm from lug to lug if you take into account measuring it down the center. The strap does integrate, so the strap will slightly bow at this point. So if you have got smaller wrists, just keep that into mind. Here you can see it on my 7.2-inch wrist, and it fits perfectly. They do sell a metal bracelet for this watch, but I think the pairing of this strap with the details on the dial really complements it very well. This is using a Miyota movement, the 9039 movement. This is a dateless movement. There's no ghost position on here. This is an automatic movement with hand winding. There is a very satisfying screw down crown that when you unscrew it, it does pop out, but it doesn't have a great deal of water resistance coming in at 50 meters. So we'll cover you for most day-to-day things, but obviously not for diving, although I'm not sure why you would dive with a watch like this. The watch does have lume, and it's very good lume that they've used, the BGW9 Super Luminova, but because those Dauphine hands are delicate with that bevel down the center, and the actual application of lume is only in the center of those hands, you're not getting a lot of lume here. It's just a very subtle application of lume, and it is only the hands that are lumed on this particular watch. One of the standout features of this watch, though, is how thin it is. It's coming in at 9.7mm. That is helped by the fact that there is a flat case back, which is beautifully decorated. It has 6 screws securing on the back, so that artwork is always in the correct position. But there is also a flat sapphire crystal on the top with AR coating. And because the watch is so beautifully balanced on the wrist and is low profile, this is a really nice watch to wear. Very elegant, but also has that sort of sporty watch element to it. The case finishing on these watches is always impeccable. Every watch that I've reviewed, and this is probably the 4th or 5th, has been finished to a very high standard, and this one is no exception. Brushing down the side, polishing down the upper chamfers, and then the bezel itself does have a knurling on it, which does invite you to try and turn it, but it isn't actually a bezel that turns, but it does have that nice knurling pattern to it, and then that is complemented by the inner part of that being quite highly polished. And this, of course, is a stainless steel watch. So let's talk about the standout element of this watch, which is that paper dial. So they've used an actual paper disc. This isn't a brass dial that they've stamped to make it look like paper to have that gradient. This is actually paper that they've used, and they've used 5-layer process to build up that image. And because the paper is porous, the ink has slightly bled, so it gives this awesome look as if the dial has been hand painted. So you might think to yourself, well, what will happen with a paper dial? Will it ripple over time or will it age? Well, in fact, what the team over there have done is they've taken the paper disc, but then there is a transparent disc over the top. So the dial itself is really transparent with the paper underneath, and it's sandwiched there, so you won't get any rippling of the dial because it is sealed behind this transparent dial. Now, one of the net benefits of having a transparent dial as well is the indices and the logo are applied to this transparent dial, and they do look like they're slightly elevated over the paper. If you look at the watch straight on, you cannot tell that there is a transparent dial, so you get a really good view of the artwork that is complemented by that sapphire crystal, and then the indices and the logo appear to be hovering as well as the hands over the dial very subtly. It gives a really beautiful look, and I think they've done an excellent job here of this washi paper. They're having a lot of fun over there, that team, with these different dial finishes. So let's talk about pricing now. So this watch is going to be limited to 500 pieces and it's coming in at about $1,050, which I think is actually a really good price for a very unique looking watch. It's using a Miyota movement, but it is using one of the 9000 series Miyota movements as well. So you are getting one of the more top grade Miyota movements in here as well. So a lot to like about this watch, maybe with the exception of the lume. But because it is so distinctive, I'm sure you've got a lot of thoughts, so let me know in the comment section down below. You heard my opinion, but let me know your opinion in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed this upload, I would love it if you hit that subscribe button, and if you really enjoyed it and fancy buying me a coffee or a drink, there's a link in the description down below. I'd really appreciate it. As always, I appreciate your time watching this, and I'll see you next time on Casual Watch Reviews. Thanks guys, bye.